dare you to move. I dare you to move like today never happened. Today never happened before.
Fellowship Church sent the Ozans to Poland a little over 3 years ago. They were long-term members here of our body, had been to Europe many times, helping us to lead short-term trips. Now Fellowship Church is blessed to have the Ozans in Poland, an extension of our body, ministering to international students. And our church's plans is to have short-term trips go a couple times a year to help support their efforts at reaching thousands of international students for Christ.
On the first day of our visit, literally the first afternoon of our visit, Lauren took us to a cemetery. There are more people buried in the city than there are alive. And this one cemetery we went to literally goes on as far as the eye can see. Row after row of these grave sites that have flowers and candles, sometimes dozens of candles on them. These candles have been lit as prayers for the dead. I remarked to Lauren how striking it was to me in a country that is not just post-communist, but post-Catholic, post-Christian, whatever word you want to put around it. There's not a lot of faith in any really God at all. And yet here are people trying to make sense out of life and death and lighting candles and saying prayers. And it just demonstrated to me the spiritual confusion, the deep need, the deep longing there was for truth. And the longer we were in Poland, the more we realized how limited there was access to the gospel and to truth in this country.
I was trying to really reconcile in my mind, why we're in Poland. I can understand why we're in Mexico or Vietnam and Africa because of the abject poverty. But you don't have that kind of poverty in Poland. Things are going along pretty well. It's been 20 years since the fall of communism. But as I saw the concentration camp, as I saw the cemeteries, as I looked at the faces of the older people, I could just see the coldness and the emptiness, in a country that had been without Christ for over 60 years. And literally the communists and the fascists had stripped Christianity from that culture, just like Pol Pot had stripped doctors and lawyers and everything else from Cambodia a couple decades ago.
The sense of the spiritual lostness of Poland just seemed to gradually grow on us while we were there. We went to Auschwitz and Birkenau. Obviously the history of that place is a dark place. It was a gloomy, rainy, cold, wintry day, which seemed very appropriate for the place that we were.
We walked into this huge room, and in this room there were shoes that were just wall high and feet long, and they were the shoes left over from the Jews that had been killed there. The shoes were very muted colors, and in this pile of shoes there was one red shoe that just struck me. And I thought about the lady that wore those shoes, and I thought about the vibrancy she must have had in her life, and for her to have ended up there just because of her nationality, it just hurt my heart.
It's one of the least evangelized countries in the world with the fewest missionaries in the world. In a lot of ways, it's like an abandoned, forgotten place. And for Lauren and Christina to be there, and to be there on behalf of our church, and for us to be able to begin to partner with them, to me feels like a grace that's been given to us by God to go to a place that really deeply is in need and often not thought of.
Cheshin's uniquely positioned in all of Eastern Europe to be a birthplace of the next generation of Christianity, because Cheshin contains a number of universities that only teach in English. And so Cheshin draws students from all over Europe to learn business or mechanics or medicine in English. And there's no English church in Poland to minister to these thousands of students. The Ozans have started an international fellowship in their living room where they're ministering to these students on a weekly or bi-weekly basis.
Here are students from really all over Eastern and Western Europe who've come together. They're diverse, their native languages are diverse, their experiences are diverse, and the only thing they share in common, other than the fact that they study and live in Chechen, is that they have a deep heart to worship the Lord and know His Word.
I was amazed at the ownership that each person is beginning to take of this vision. Some people helping with leading the worship, other people helping with the audio visuals. Again, the excitement of being able to worship in English language was a welcome gift, you could tell, to all of them there.
Missionaries are the ones that are helping to teach and raise up the new generation of pastors and evangelists and teachers that will help lead Christianity in Poland for the next generations to come. And so that's what I see that's really exciting about you know, what the Ozans are doing in Poland, how God is using them and how God is using our church to be a part of literally reaching millions of people in Europe for Christ.
I dare